you in a shade, and comics are your estate. Put a little madness in your life. Come give your mind a cleanse. Tune in with pops and friends. Just turn on your Roku box and then put a little madness in your life. Put a little madness in your life. Yeah, yeah. Put a little madness in your life.
Once upon a modern time in a little cul-de-sac, black characters from myth and rhyme decided to come back. They moved into a cuter house, they bought a boat and car, they got a job, they got a spouse, they're ready to go far. This modern life, with all its strife, is wilder than before. You won't forget the day you met the fables next door. You won't forget the day you met the fables next door.
My name is Frank Martin, writer and creator of the Grimm Space series. The basic concept behind the title is to take classic fairy and folk tales and reimagine them into a space fantasy setting. The first two issues focus on Jack and the Beanstalk and Pinocchio. Now, Grimm Space returns to Kickstarter for a brand new 60-page adventure that adapts a lesser-known fairy tale, The Golden Bird.
This story picks up where the first Grimm Space left off, as the egg Jack brought on board his ship suddenly hatches. A strange flying alien causes them to crash. Now stuck with no way off the planet, Jack and the rest of the Beanstalk crew must track the creature down, which is proving to be easier said than done.
I'm super excited for what Grimm Space has in store for the future. This is the third installment in the series, but next year I'm planning to expand it into an interconnected universe of characters and storylines. So if you're into sci-fi, fantasy, or a mixture of both, then I hope you'll jump on board for this campaign of the Golden Flying Thing. If you'd like to jump on board, then click the Back This Project button at the top of the page or select a reward tier of your choice. Thanks for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the Grimm Space universe.
It's the Critical Blast Podcast with our special guest, Frank Martin.
And that is the opening for tonight's Critical Blast podcast. And Frank, welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
I'll wait for the applause to die down. Thanks for having me on.
So glad to. And wow, Grimm Space. That's that you're right in a wheel space that I've been occupying for the last month and a half here in my head. So we're going to be able to talk on this one a lot.
What space is that, or should we wait?
Well, you saw the little short trailer there for the Fables Next Door.
I did, yes. I thought that was apropos.
Yeah, and so did I. And it's the one that we're editing right now and getting all the last minute details in. It's an anthology of short stories, our latest one, and it's basically what it says. It's modern life or the future, but these characters from Fable are still alive, and you find out that they're in your neighborhood. And what happens? What do you do, and all that?
That's pretty cool. Are they all part of the same neighborhood?
No. We had 20 different authors just come up with
okay.
something. For those who are watching and wondering who our authors are, there's a couple names in there you might have heard of. There's this guy Bill Willingham. He's going to kick things off. And then
the man synonymous with Fables.
Yeah, he's in there. And then we're going to end up with a guy. I think a lot of people are really going to like this guy. He's got a real good talent for writing. He might make something of himself. Alan Dean Foster is going to close out the book.
Nice.
So from beginning to end, we're going to have some really great fable-ish stories in here. But it's not about us tonight. It's about you. And I'm going to refresh this so we can get our screen back from looking like we just played the video, like we just did. Although it did give me good information, because the video is the only place where you can ever find out what percentage funded you are. Have you ever noticed that? It's like,
You know what? I never really think of that, because as a creator, you can go to the dashboard and it just tells you.
okay. As a viewer, it's like, wonder what percentage. I don't want to pull my calculator out. I want you to show me. Hey, this is 57% funded. That tells me something.
And you got it.
How much is it? I'll play the video to the end and find out.
So yeah, I don't know what it said. We were at 47. We're kind of
40 something. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Creeping up there to 50%. That's the easy one to figure out. 50%. Just cut it in half.
Yeah. So tell me about Grimm Space. I heard Pinocchio. I heard Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yeah. So Grimm Space originally started as a one shot. It was the Jack and the Beanstalk story, and I just kind of wanted to take that Grimm fairy tale fable, if you will, and give it a Star Wars twist, kind of space fantasy. But I knew that there was potential here to explode it into a bigger universe. So what I did was I populated this one shot with little Easter eggs, or I call them story threads. So you can grab the thread and pull on it. So for instance, in the original, Jack trades a cow for the beans. In Jack and the Nav Unit, which was the first Grimm Space story, he trades a robot, a P1 Nokia robot. And so I always knew that there was potential. I didn't really have any plans to do it. Fortunately, the book got picked up by Scout Comics, and they asked, do you want to continue this? And I was like, yeah, that was kind of always the plan. And that kind of gave me the kick in the butt to do P1 Nokia and then follow through with a whole bunch more.
Excellent. So have you got like a story map in your head or in a book somewhere that's like, it's going to go here?
I do. So if you scroll down some, I created I kind of wanted to copy the MCU timeline where they have all the movies leading up to Avengers. There it is. So I created a launch schedule. Jack and the Nav Unit and Pinocchio were the first two. Those are already released. And then the little "You Are Here" thing is for the Golden Flying thing, which is the Golden Bird, is the Grimm fairy tale that I'm adapting. Kind of the one nobody knows, but everybody's going to know all the other ones. Three Little Pigs, Cinderella.
My watch says it's time to stand. You keep talking. I'm going to stand for just a second. I'll be right back.
Get those legs flowing.
Yes,
yeah, the thing, I wanted to expand beyond just the standard Grimm fairy tale, though. I knew that it had potential for other characters in public domains, ancient folklore. So after Cinderella is going to be a story for the Monkey King I'm doing, and then I'm doing a Captain Hook story. That's my Peter Pan one. Anansi, the African trickster spider god, and then I'm going to round out next year with a Wizard of Oz story, and that's going to be my Avengers kind of story, where all of the different characters that I've introduced cross over and come together and do a big kind of finale for next year.
I love that idea of bringing all those different cultural fables into one universe, not just like all the Grimm stuff. But I said when it was done talking about me, we're going to talk about you. Yeah, I lied.
It's fine. my son now, I got him introduced to House. You know the show?
Oh, yes, I know that show.
He's Everybody Lies. That's our big thing in the house at the moment. So.
Yes, we all do. This was a book we put out earlier last year, the Brothers Grimm, and of course the first story is the Golden Bird. So when you said this is an adaptation of the Golden Bird, I'm like, I know that story.
I haven't met anybody, so you're the first. So, but the reason I did that was because Jack and the Nav Unit ends on a very specific note. So like the original story, Jack gets a big golden egg. That's what he gets from the giant. And in this, he gets a golden egg too. I kind of homaged Alien in that he enters the ship and there's a whole bunch of eggs. and he picks one up and he makes off with it. And at the end of the story, the egg starts to crack, and then that's it. That's the end. So I needed a
Yep.
follow up that will lead into a new story adventure for these characters. And the golden bird just kind of was the only one that really fit perfectly. You know, it's the thing that hatches from the egg and causes all these problems for them. So
So how close are you paralleling the story? I mean, you got the two brothers who are out to kill Jack. Do you have the
So the way it works is, for those who don't know the story of the Golden Bird, what it is there's a king that has a tree full of golden apples, and a golden bird comes and eats them all. And I believe the king wants the golden bird back because he thinks it's gold. So he has sons that go out and try to get the bird. So instead of having the sons, what I do is I have basically a main roster of characters that exist on this ship called the Beanstalk. It is Jack and Mom, the two characters from the Jack and the Nav unit. I have a character named Zeke, who is our big bad wolf character, and a character named Stilts, who will eventually be our Rumpelstiltskin character. They're the kind of the core of this universe, and they're the stand-ins for the sons in this story. So the king, after they crash land because of the golden bird, the king rallies them and forces them to go get the golden bird so that he can fix their ship for them.
do you have the fox who gives all the good advice that nobody listens to?
He does. The fox is actually so in Jack and the Nav unit, there is a merchant, a mysterious merchant that gives him the beans, or the Nav unit in this case, and he makes a new appearance. He plays the role of the fox in the story, and he's going to be an interesting character going forward. He's going to appear in a lot of the Grimm Space Tales.
One of the things I noticed when I was editing the Brother Grimm was a lot of repeat tropes. One of them was the wicked stepmother. The creative director, I was like, something happened in that land, and all these stories, all these different stories, they were talking about somebody.
Somebody in particular.
Yeah. Something happened, and they were like, talking about it, and the kids were like, what are you talking about? Oh, no. We're talking about like this make believe wicked stepmother. Yeah, it wasn't. No, we're not talking about the lady who took an axe to her children. No, it's fine. Go to bed. But something happened somewhere.
I have next year I'm doing a Cinderella story, and stepmother's going to show up in that too. So I'm looking forward to seeing how people enjoy all these different twists on the stories that I'm putting forth.
So Grimm Space, you've got already. Look at this as I scroll down here. This is a lot of books, and it ends in 2026. This is not a long timeline.
It only ends because I ran out of room.
Yeah, exactly.
If people like these stories, I will keep it going for as long as possible because there's so many Grimm's Tales, and I'm having so much fun creating these puzzle pieces that fit together. Because there's cameos and storylines that continue on, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of folklore to pull from here.
Yeah, I'm known a lot for doing isolated one-shot stories or two-part stories, and I wanted to show people that look, I can develop long-form storytelling too. And I do 6 launches a year. So next year I'm devoting all 6 launches to Grimm Space. I'm really going to expand this universe.
That's one every 2 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's okay. So that is the dream when people crowdfund, is to be able to get that kind of a schedule and that kind of an output. And no one really has been able to live up to it, but very few people. What's your secret? What is the formula for getting this pulled off?
I think the formula is planning far enough in advance that I try to get everything out of the way. So right now, after Grimm Space, I have a campaign in July. That campaign page is already built. I'm building the one after that now. So I'm always living in the future a little bit, just planning ahead. Not wasting any time, trying to get ahead of things, making sure books are on schedule or ahead of schedule, because if you fall behind, it's easy to stay behind. So I just I'm always kind of just pushing stuff forward, making sure it's never too early to get things done, I think. So
Yeah. So you got the campaign pages done, but what about the books? I mean, do you get the books done before you set up the
that's another
launch?
thing. Yeah, I'm either going to be 90% done or all the way done, because what happens is I never want to like live in the past. I always want to either be in the present or the future. So as soon as the campaign ends, I place the print order the next day if I can. And I'm
Sure.
getting the books, and I fulfill. I kind of just don't mess around. I try to fulfill in a weekend or just like really buckle down and get it done as quickly as possible so I could put whatever campaign I just finished behind me and move on to the next.
Now, as a writer, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier to hit a 2 month deadline for a story, the length of a comic book. You can do it in a weekend, if you really don't do anything else. But as an artist, that's where the bottleneck seems to be with the time. How does that work out? How do you manage that?
So my main artist for Grimm Space is Dan Scalisi. He did the first Jack and the Nav unit. He's doing the Golden Flying thing this campaign too. Obviously, I can't have him do every single book for next year, so I'm having him focus on the main book, which is going to be the big crossover, the Wizard of Oz one in the back. But all the other campaigns, I'm either going to work with artists that I've worked with in the past or artists that I know are reliable that can stick to a schedule and just kind of make sure that they can hammer everything out before it's done. It's
And then, of course,
it's just about like being flexible, giving people enough time so that they can work this book into their current schedule, so you're not hounding them. People tend to respond more when you're not grueling them with a deadline.
and then of course the real magic bean of crowdfunder success is or is to take the money from one campaign and plow it into the next one, and then take the money from that campaign and plow it in. As like, that's real great, but where does profit come into this? Because all that's doing is just an endless cycle of grueling campaigns. But more than that, think about these artists. If they're not you, they want something from you. They want these little green pieces of paper that
Yeah.
And if you've got to get the comic done before the crowdfunder, and you're crowdfunding so you can pay for getting the comic done, you've got this real chicken and egg scenario here. What do you just like go to the bank and say, "Hey, here's my plan. I'm going to finance this thing," and they say, "That sounds like a really sound business plan. A Kickstarter for a comic book. We'll be glad to give you money."
Well, it's a combination of a bunch of things. So I've done over 20 crowdfunding campaigns at this point. I like to think that I have a little nest egg that I could use to pull from for production. And if I'm confident in a project, I know that money's coming back. It's worth the investment. Credit cards also a lot of
Those always work. Yes.
There's always credit cards.
They ask no questions about what you're spending it on.
Yeah, there's always credit card debt in the name of comic books. But yeah, it's I think a lot of creators run into problems when they start robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're taking from one campaign and pushing it for the art or something else for another campaign, and then they don't have that money to print the book, and they run into a lot of trouble. So I try to keep everything separate as much as possible.
So the other, I'm not going to say fallacy, but the other paradigm that I see is people saying, "I make the money off this campaign, I plow it into the next campaign. I take that campaign, I plow it into the next campaign," and you're forever crowdfunding. When ideally the goal of crowdfunding was get enough money to start your business. Don't use the crowdfunding for your store. Now it's evolved into where people just use crowdfunding for the store, and I don't see a problem with that. But do you want to try to escape the Kickstarter framework where you're just publishing comics because you've made it now and you don't need them to be your sales force?
It's an interesting discussion to have about that. I would love to just launch a book on my website and have 1 million people come and buy it. That would just be simple and easy. I wouldn't have to worry about Kickstarter. That's not the reality. Kickstarter right now is the hot store, the hot marketplace that everybody wants to dance with at the party. So if that's where everybody is, And look, Kickstarter has been such a boon for creators like myself who struggled to find publishers who wanted to work with them, and now publishers are coming to Kickstarter. So it's like it's come full circle. But I wouldn't really give it up. I don't see a need to give it up. It's what we are in and what we're doing in this moment. That could shift, that can change. But right now, I mean, Kickstarter is doing something right. Creators like myself are doing something right. If we see every big publisher under the sun kind of jumping on Kickstarter and trying to make money there.
Yeah, and I see, there's other places other than Kickstarter. There's Indiegogo. There's Fund My Comic we put up there. I think that's the next place where people are going to try to make money, is not crowdfund something, but try to be the place for people to crowdfund something.
Crowdfunding, I mean, the name is a bit of a misnomer because it's an event. It's a launch party. It's a big thing. It's fun. It's exciting. It's got limited time to it. There's a social aspect to it because you could see the backers and the funding totals. So it's more than just raising money for a project now. It's become this like party, an event that everybody's jumping to when something goes live. So yeah, they've tapped into a certain kind of magic there.
So what was it that first what was the magic bean? What was the seed that grew this Grimm
The idea that is Grimm Space?
Yeah. Do you remember where you were when you tripped over this and said, "This is what I shall do"? Yes, I shall become a bat. I mean, something like that.
I love reimagining. I love retooling, taking a story that everybody knows and spinning it and doing something new with it, different with it, playing with it. I was big into fan fiction, and I did a Mortal Kombat reimagining where it takes all the different ninja clans from Mortal Kombat and it reimagines them into gangs in New York City. So it's just, I just like playing around with things and doing stuff like that. And these tales that are timeless, that are recognizable, that everybody knows what they are. It's cool to put them in something familiar, like a Star Wars akin universe. And so it's fun, and I have a good time doing it.
Were you big on the fairy tales when you were younger? I mean, was that?
I mean, I'm big on fairy tales. You know what I love? I love the idea of fairy tales. These old, timeless stories that could exist in different areas, but have little different regional switches to them. And it's the concept of fairy tales, and that Disney was big on them, and decided to retool them and do his own thing with them. It's just the idea of them rather than the fairy tales themselves. And you'll see that throughout the Grimm Space universe. So, for instance, Three Little Pigs, it's not a direct adaptation of Three Little Pigs. I'm actually doing kind of a sequel to it. It takes place after the events of the classic Three Little Pigs story. So I'm having fun exploring all these things from different directions and avenues.
My favorite take on the Three Little Pigs was I think it was a Gary Larson cartoon, although that could be apocryphal. Said the fourth little pig no one talks about. He built his house out of wolf skulls. It didn't hold up very long, but it sent a message.
That's very funny.
So,
the idea is to grind them up to make cement. That's what you have to do.
Yes, you do. Just let the wolves see it. It's like sweet. So outside of the fairy tales, comic books. I mean, this is the forum that you're in. This is the medium you've chosen. Why? Why comics?
Why comics for Grimm Space in particular? I love the visual of combining the fantasy and the science fiction. I think Star Wars does that a little bit, but it doesn't lean so heavily into it as much as it can, right? So in the Golden Flying Thing, they start in a spaceship, right? And there's aliens, and it's super science fiction. And then you can see in that image right there, if you go up a little bit, where the video is for the theme song. That's the King's Hall, Great Hall, and it looks like something out of Game of Thrones. It's a big fantasy setting. So the mashup of these two genres and trying to create something original and unique from it, I think is uniquely fitted for comic books because it's such a visual feast on the eyes to see lightsabers and trolls, you know. So
Yes.
it's definitely cool, and I wanted to display that for people.
So I'm digging the backgrounds here. I mean, we're starting off with red flashing lights.
Yeah,
You can
so
see it's static imagery. You can see the lights flashing, red and light, right? Red and pink, red and pink.
yeah, we kind of start the story and media res here as the egg hatches and it's causing mayhem and chaos on the ship. So it gets the action going right from the first page.
So
And
this is Jack, and who is
that's Stilts. So
that's still.
yeah, so on the Beanstalk, it's a courier ship in the Confederacy, which is what we call our government of planets and stuff. And so Jack is the mechanic, Mom is the pilot, Zeke, the big bad wolf character, he's their security, kind of their toting gun guy, and Stilts is their business relations. He handles all of their business going on and keeps the money flowing. So they each have a role to fill on the ship, and they each have different personalities that interact with each other. And I'm using them as kind of the core that's going to build this universe. They're not in every single story, but it's kind of always going to come back to them and their plot line.
There's so many places this can go, and I'm just. I feel like I've got a lot to catch up on. Can we catch up on it? Is there a tier here that says, "Hey, did you miss this stuff?"
There is. So all of I'm kind of designing it like the MCU a little bit, in which you can watch all the Iron Man movies and nothing else and be perfectly fine. And so you can watch all the Thor films or just Shang-Chi. It's kind of the same thing where you could pick up any one of the Grimm Space stories that contain stories and follow them along without knowing what happened previously. You can read this one without having read Jack and the Nav Unit. It's kind of straightforward that Jack has this egg, something hatched, it caused a problem. You don't need to go into all the details. But yes, I do have catch-up tiers to answer your original question.
So this is a how big is this comic?
60 pages.
It's a big that's a big book for $25. Because $25 is what you'd spend normally on a standard comic book, which I can't believe I'm saying that's a good price anymore.
It's indie comics.
Well, it's 2024.
They're expensive to make, and they're expensive to print, and they're expensive to ship. So, but it's hard. It's a weird industry in that the big two players, Marvel and DC, they set the price point, but their cost per unit is infinitesimally smaller compared to everybody else. So it's hard to make an independent comic book with the expenses that you have, and have to talk to your casual comic reader who says, why is it so much more than the Marvel books? Be like, well, they print on toilet paper and they print 1 billion of them and it's just super cheap.
Exactly. That's like, when we have a creator says, hey, how many copies of the book can I get? I'm like, well, if you order this many, you can get it for this much per unit. But if you order this many, you can get it this much per unit. Still the same to print. It's the shipping that, starts to divide down a lot more.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm trying to. So the idea is, we do a crowdfunding for the Grimm Space books, and I'm still partnering with Scout to put them out. This 60-page book, I made it to divide it up into 3 issues, and they will be published to the direct market as 3 separate issues rather than a complete trade. So that's going to be the difference.
So yeah, it helps having a publisher like that has the diamond connection where they can get you into the stores.
I would not try to handle that myself. it's a lot. It's a big to do. I've been with an indie publisher in the past. My very first one, their ultimate goal was to get into diamond, and then when they figured out what it would cost them to actually do it, they just folded. They were like, it's not even worth it. So
and the thing is, once you got into diamond, you could be working on your second issue or your third issue, and Diamond says, yeah, you know what? First issue sales weren't really up to snuff. We're not going to list you. And so you're stuck with all your second issues while you're making your third issue. I've heard it happen to too many people to want to be there myself.
It's weird that in the comics industry, these milestones that you hit, they're big milestones, they're huge and they're exciting, but it's like just the beginning. Like there's still an uphill battle. There's still a huge climb that you have to take, and it's just always work. Even when you have triumphs, you could celebrate for 5 seconds before you have to get back to work.
Well, we do have the gold spot variant. Now that's when printing becomes a real challenge.
It can, yeah. And this is my first one. I've never done it before. There's a bit of a learning curve every time you try something new. But the cover, you can't really see it that well on that side. And maybe if you scroll up on the page, you can see it a little better. The
cover screen it's going to look great.
Scroll down. Sorry. It's a cool image in that the bird grows, it gets super big, and the beanstalk crew is all hanging on to. There it is. It's still hard to see, but it's all hanging on to his talons, and they're being dragged. And so that cover is going to have gold streaks in it. That should be pretty cool.
Very nice. And under that, this is the tech I was looking for. These are all 60-page books.
No, so I'm not sure. I think Grimm Space is 28 pages. The Jack and the Nav unit is 28 pages. I think P1 Nokia is 28 pages too. So they're still they're one shots, but they're still decent sized one shots.
Okay. You can get all of them, people, for $45. That link, by the way, to this Kickstarter we're looking at, right below the video. You can click on it anytime and throw money at it. Please do. In fact, I don't know if you remember where we started, but this is where we're at. I don't know if it's gone up during the show or not. So I can't celebrate if it went up. If it went up and you're in the chat and you're like, hey, I just gave this thing money, tell me, please.
But yeah, I have digital catch-up tiers too. So if you don't want to pay for a print book, we can do that.
Yeah. So and you've got a complete bundle here, which is basically the catch-up tier and the gold foil variant cost in. Yeah. So you're getting two copies.
That's the complete bundle. So there's two covers for this campaign. This will give you the standard cover for both the other Grimm Space books. And I have variant covers available for the other books too, but they're only add-ons. I don't have them as a standard tier.
Okay. Now this is interesting because I've heard this lament at conventions before when writers were there. They're like, yeah, the artist is going to go over there. He's going to make, $50 a pop, every sketch he does. And
I'm so jealous of artists that they get to do that. I want to bring a typewriter to conventions and just I'll write you a little limerick right here on the spot.
Yeah, Peter David used to say, I will write you a paragraph about your character.
That's where this tier came from, is kind of jealousy over commissions that artists can do. So over the years, I've had a couple of people grab it, which is pretty cool. They want to see a short story. Some people want a short story based on a particular subject. Other people that say, Frank, write whatever you want, and which is cool in that I can use it for that campaign. So what I'll do is I'll write a Grimm Space short story, and I could use it as part of the project and send it out to backers. And so I'm always appreciative when backers want to grab something like that and add to the mythology of these characters.
Yeah. And of course it's coming with the bundle above, the complete bundle, and the digital deluxe, the theme song. You have a theme song. We're gonna have to play that, and free shipping.
So all the tiers are kind of stacked. So if you get any of the big ticket items, you'll get everything.
You can get some digital art from Dan Scalisi.
Then we bundle it together, and my big ticket tier all the way at the bottom is produce a comic, where Dan and I will work together with you to make a comic your choice.
So if you've got this idea for a comic and you've never been able to find an artist or character, it's a 5-pager. So $850 is about right for that, for the art and the time. That's what, about that's $85 a page. That's a steal.
And you get all of the stuff from the campaign, all the books, the bundle.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've had
you have a short story you need to turn into a comic. This is the thing to hit right now, and then
Yeah,
Get something to read
I
on.
was working with one person who grabbed that a couple campaigns ago, and it was cool. He wrote a screenplay, kind of a script, and he said, "Frank, I have no idea how to make comics, but this is something I've been working on. I would love to take like a scene and turn it into something." And I was like, "Sure." And he sent me over his script. I toyed with it. I worked with the artist to create something. I lettered it, and he was blown away. His response was like, "I can't believe you did this. This is phenomenal. Thank you so much." So like the fact that
Writing comics.
it got somebody that excited over it was pretty cool. And
I wrote a 8-page comic story for an upcoming anthology, and doing that, I was like, man, I'd rather write another 100,000-page novel than do another comic story this short. This is hard.
Comics can be tricky. Unlike writing prose novels, comics is all about resource management, which can be tricky when you're transitioning over to prose from prose, in which you can have these big, expansive pages to flesh out a scene, to write dialogue and do what you want. If you have 5 pages, you have to work within those 5 pages to tell the story that you want to tell. So it's every page, every panel, every word balloon, it's scarce, and you need to make them count, especially
And
if
you've got to take control of things like, what you want to end the page on. That's something you don't have to worry about in a prose novel. You end the chapter on a note, and whatever page that is, who cares? But with a comic, you're like, okay, I want to set the mood I want them to turn that page, so I got to make that last panel it can't be you kind of event. And then
there's a lot of thinking that goes on, a lot of it's a puzzle, and I enjoy the putting the pieces together and seeing how it all fits and turns out in the end.
Mike, appreciate you sharing the stream out there, because not for me, always for our guests. And if anyone else wants to do that, we've got 64 people watching right now.
Thank you.
Throughout the internet verse. So again, hit the link for this Kickstarter. I'm gonna take the Kickstarter link here, and I'm gonna put it in the chat, because there will be people who are watching on Twitter that don't have the description to play off of. I'm just going to throw it right here. Of course, you could probably just go to Kickstarter and search on Grimm Space Golden Flying Thingy. It's 2 words, Grimm and Space. It's not Grimm Space. Which is how I had been hearing it all this time until I saw the URL. I'm like, oh, wait a second. It's separated.
It still works, Grimm Space.
Yeah, like Farscape. It's ooh, there's a thought. Now I want to see Grimm Space and Farscape crossover.
Yeah, it's got a very Farscapey feel to it. That's kind of the vibe that I'm going for. And the cool thing about this, though, is as I'm expanding and playing with other characters, I'm going beyond the standard Star Wars kind of punky sci-fi vibe. I'm trying to do a story into steampunk. I'm trying to do a little like Star Trek parody. So I'm trying to like branch off into other sci-fi-ish elements.
And I don't know if you do it or not, but with a story like this, you don't have to refer to, how many years in the future it is, or whether or not Earth is involved.
No,
I mean, Star Wars was a futuristic sci-fi drama, but guess what? It was years ago. It was ancient history.
Yeah, this takes place like Star Wars in a galaxy far, far away. I actually have a character kind of drop that line, which is kind of funny. And I'll show you another thing. If you scroll up or scroll down, I keep saying up because you scroll up to go down.
Yes.
I have a tier or add-ons, I should say, where you can join the universe, either become a background character, a minor character, or a major reoccurring character.
Major recurring character. Okay.
Yeah. I only have 4 of those available because I have specific characters in mind that you become. So obviously everybody can't be a major character. But this is what I wanted to show you, is that for Free Comic Book Day, to kind of promote the campaign, I did a Grimm Space short, digital short for Steamboat Willie. I did Spaceship Willie with Mickey, who's a recently entered public domain character. So I wanted to seize the opportunity.
We did a Steamboat Willie coloring book.
If you click on it, it will pull up the short.
Loading. Okay, there we go.
So in talking about kind of the various sci-fi elements, this was kind of more like Astro So originally, I wanted to do something similar. It's like Star Wars punky kind of, but the artist wanted to lean more into the astromech kind of 60s vibe, and I thought that worked perfectly. So I let him run with it. And this is just a fun short book that kind of gave a cartoony feel to what the spirit of Grimm Space is, which is basically taking public domain or characters everybody knows and stories everybody knows and giving them that sci-fi spacey twist to them.
It's the same story. It's Steamboat Willie.
It's the same exact story. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. It's the same exact thing. It's just on a spaceship.
I love it. This is fantastic. I was I'm curious about the cow because they're that's how they're making music with the cow. If you remember the original Steamboat Willie, when we were doing the coloring book, my creative director said we can't do the cow. We can't do the thing with the cow.
Originally, I actually in the script I had, because the cow swallows a guitar, so I wanted the Minnie to play him as a guitar, but it didn't really work out with the art, so we kind of did something a little bit more standard. And that's kind of it. It's just a quick, fun, goofy short, just kind of in the spirit of Free Comic Book Day and Mickey and Grimm Space. And I thought it was good timing is that Free Comic Book Day was last Saturday, and the campaign launches today.
And he airlocked. That parrot deserved it.
So
that's fantastic. I
want to include that in the campaign just in case people missed that. They could get a little kick out of it.
Yeah, click on that and download that one. That's a fun one to save. Frank, I don't know what else to ask you here.
It's funny. It's funny. My favorite part of this entire thing was actually reinventing the Grimm Space logo to make it look like all Disney-fied. Like it's such a little simple thing, but I had such a kick out of doing that because it allowed me to like play around with all my fun logos.
But that's important. A logo change like that sets the tone immediately. I was a big watcher of Fringe.
Fringe was a great show.
Yeah, and there came that episode where the entire thing was set in the alternate universe, and suddenly it's like it's not the logo you're used to, and it's not the opening sounds you're used to, or like they've changed all the setup imagery, and it puts you in that frame of mind that I'm at unease. Something's different about this. I have to keep watching or reading.
What brings to my mind is the Star Trek Strange New Worlds musical episode that they did, and that they did the same theme song, but it was like show tunes, like ba 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 ba. It was like little things like that. Just kind of they set the tone perfectly. You're right.
I don't have much else to ask you about this, so I'm going to just tell people, hey, Grimm Space looks like a hell of a lot of fun, guys. It's definitely on my radar. I'm going to be backing this project here.
Thank you.
How long do I got to wait? August. That's not bad.
That's a conservative effort. I've never done a book this big before. I've never done spot foil before. It's also longer than my typical campaigns because it's a bigger book. I gave myself an extra week, so it's.
Sure.
I'm trying, but it's all done, completely finished. Digital can be fulfilled within a week of it ending. It's just I wanted to give myself a little lead time because printers are pretty backed up these days. They're taking their time. So I want to make sure I don't over promise my delivery.
Yeah. My printer is taking all the time in the world because what am I going to do, right? So you're at 79 backers. If that had said 80, I would have known it moved, but I knew it was 70 something. I don't know if we moved at all.
I think it was 78. So I think we got somebody. Thank you.
We might have got one. Whoever you were, thank you. Yeah. Appreciate you.
I'm hoping this campaign is a success because, as you can see, I'm really committed to it, and I hope next year is going to be Grimm Space galore. So I hope people are excited for it and on board and want to see how I tie all these things together.
It sounds like it's going to be a fun year for you and for the readers. Want to invite everybody at the top of the hour to head over to the mic stand and get the niche news of the night over there with Mike Walters. And, of course, tune in Friday when we do the comic book historic retrospective. I will not be there this Friday. I will be there next Friday as a guest. And Frank, what that is you know, people go into the comic shop and they're like, "Hey, I want to start reading comic. Where do I start?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, you start at Dark Knight Returns. You want to pick up this arc of Spider-Man." Mike went back to the beginning. We've been reading comics from 1920 something and forward. So we're reading the Golden Age books every Friday on stream, doing voices and sound effects. It's like radio theater. It's a whole lot of fun if you like.
That sounds cool.
So everybody, be sure to hit that up tonight. Other than that, Frank, thank you for coming on and introducing me to Grimm Space. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad you knew what the Golden Bird was, because everybody else scratches their head.
I know that Cinderella's not a Grimm fairy tale, but Ashputtel is.
A lot of them are not. I'm kind of leaning. The word Grimm is doing a lot of heavy lifting in my series. Pinocchio is not a Grimm fairy tale.
No.
So neither is Monkey King or Anansi, because they're not even the same continent. But
Ashputtel was the same story as Cinderella, except she had different kinds of slippers, and she did a whole bunch of other things. And her mother called her an SLUT. It meant something different back then. I had to look it up. I'm like, no way. It meant a lazy person, which went fine with the story because that's what her mother was always saying.
It's weird how that word doesn't really mean that anymore.
No, it doesn't. Well, you think about it, it always meant somebody who was just laying around.
I think it requires a lot of work.
Yes, it does today. Now we just call it influencer. I mean,
yeah, nice.
All right. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We do appreciate you popping in. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So we're glad you were here. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.